everyone. Thanks for tuning in to EarthFest and Earth Week with us. I'm Ami, the host of PBS Wisconsin Education's new series, Field Notes on Climate.
And I'm Kylie Kump. I'm the producer of the series.
And super science nerd. In each episode here, we are exploring problems arising from our changing climate, and then what we can do about them. And how do we do this? By talking to the people whose experiences and research and actions are shaping our future and our present.
Yeah, and while we made this series with middle schoolers and high schoolers in mind, we encourage everybody and anybody to come along and learn with us.
This means you. So, grab your Fields notebook, bring along your curiosity and your questions about climate solutions, and let's check it out. How can rain be bad for lakes? Seems counterintuitive, right? Shouldn't more water be a good thing? Well, the answer is not always. Climate change is disrupting weather patterns all over the world. In some places, it's leading to droughts, while in other areas, it can cause more frequent and intense rainfall events. Too much water can actually lower the water quality in some rivers and lakes, and it all depends on how we manage water on land. Here in Madison, Wisconsin, a city surrounded by lakes, along with a plethora of streams, rivers, creeks, and ponds. With all that water around, it's not surprising there are people whose whole job is to study these bodies of water. These are limnologists. And one of them is going to take us out on Lake Mendota so we can get to the source of this issue of water quality. How might things like rainfall affect the water quality in rivers and lakes?
Yeah, rain is super important and is a really big driving force in water quality.
Okay.
With changing climate, the Midwest specifically is expected to get more wet and experience more frequent high-intensity rain events. So that when that rain is moving through the landscape, water is really good at dissolving and moving things. So that includes like pollutants or nutrients and transporting it into streams and rivers as opposed to kind of infiltrating into the soil. For Lake Mendota and the Yahara watershed, it's mainly agricultural runoff, generally phosphorus. That's the pollutant of concern. Cityscapes can also contribute to runoff concerns for aquatic ecosystems. So if you have like a really manicured lawn, if you have a lot of fertilizers to keep it green, those can also contribute to phosphorus and nutrients entering a water body. Not picking up after pets, like their waste, can also contribute to urban runoff. Litter, leaves, they can actually release a lot of phosphorus. Salt is a really big one. Salt that is used to de-ice roads. It's bad for the organisms that live in the water. So yeah, just slightly different runoff pollutants that are entering the watershed.
So how does that end up affecting the lake?
Yeah, it's affecting lakes and rivers in a lot of different ways. So if you have too much phosphorus, algae and aquatic plants can grow uncontrollably. So if you have too much algae, you can change pH. Like so amphibians and fish are really sensitive to pH levels. Dissolved oxygen can decrease. That huge swing is what often triggers fish kills.
Fish kills, because fish need to breathe oxygen, right?
Yeah. And then if also you have too much algae, you can actually have shading effects going on, and not enough light is entering to allow macrophytes to grow, or aquatic plants to grow.
Okay. So it affects everything kind of in these different ways.
Also, water temperatures have been increasing, and cyanobacteria like warmer temperatures. Cyanobacteria known to produce toxins that are harmful to humans, and if a lake warms up quicker every year, it's giving more time for cyanobacteria blooms to occur.
Our waterways are extremely connected, and actions taken upstream can have a major impact on the water quality of a lake that's miles away. Protecting the quality of our waterways is important for the aquatic ecosystem and the species that depend on it to survive, but also for the health and safety of anyone who wants to enjoy those spaces for recreation. Let's head over to Starkweather Creek to meet up with a science class from Malcolm Shabazz City High School to learn more about water quality in our communities.
Right, it's kind of a nice little hidden gem when you're actually on it. If you just read about it in the news, it might be like, oh, but you look around, it's pretty, right? And pretty matters sometimes too, of like advocating for stuff, so.
Has doing this class and learning more about the watershed and all the things going into it changed how you think about the water or how you interact with it?
Yes. I have noticed here in Madison, again, there's a lot of runoff, and so just the water quality is not good. As a kid, I would actually swim in the lakes here a lot, and at first I didn't see a problem with it, and as I was growing older, I was like, I can't see my hands below the water.
Growing up in Madison and having a lot of water access, as a kid, there used to be a lot of like, yeah, there's an algae bloom, you can't really go in the water. And then you grow up and you're looking out at it and you're like, yeah, these issues have always been here, but I'm witnessing as it gets worse. We gotta do something about that.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be that
Yeah,
way.
it's not supposed to be that.
What would you say people should do about pollution?
Educating yourself on it, and figuring out what you can do to prevent from contributing.
If you don't know what you're doing wrong. There's resources and knowledge if you just ask people.
Yeah. And the more you protect this and think about the water quality, you know, then it kind of is this like circle where it fuels more protection in the future. Water's amazing. I spend much time with water. I like being around water. You know, we'd love to go swimming, but there's some days where you have to say no to your 9-year-old and you're like, oh yeah, that's weird to have to like be in a city surrounded by lakes and say, don't swim. They have the frustration, they have the anxiety around some of these issues, but they aren't sure what to do with that. And so I think that's where a class like this is really important of like, here's where you can channel that into an actionable thing. You can go build something, you can educate around something, or advocate. You know, think globally, it's hugely important to understand the context, but act locally. That's one of our emphases with the class of like, how can we kind of find this balance of like, talk about the freshwater ecosystems, talk about the streams, talk about some of the challenges that are happening there, but also hopefully have students fall in love with them enough that they care enough to protect them. Kind of the idea of like, if you don't know a thing, you're not going to care about it, and if you don't care about it, you're not going to protect it.
Water quality does not just affect the species who live in the water. It also affects everything that utilizes the water too. So if water quality affects us all, what can we do to protect the quality of the water here in our communities?
We all have an impact on these lakes in terms of the individual decisions that we make on how we treat the land, how we use the water. We have opportunities everywhere. There are opportunities to make these waterways, Lake Wingraw, remain these very special, beautiful places, but it's going to require that we take action. And so what we do as an organization is provide programs like water quality monitoring. We have a completely volunteer-run monitoring program called Lake Forecast. These volunteers are citizen scientists, and they take different measurements. They upload that information, and this allows us to track changing water quality conditions. That information from our citizen scientists is extremely valuable because it sort of makes all this data accessible and understandable, so that the public and different communities can be informed and they can advocate for the changes that are needed to improve these ecosystems.
What kind of data do you collect?
Visual observations as like how much algae there is in the lake, and
Okay.
then we do air temp and water temp.
Okay.
And then this is for water clarity.
And how often do you come and do this?
Once a week.
Yeah. Really? What have you learned by doing this project?
I have learned that we can make an impact on like the lake.
Like be mindful about what you're putting on the ground because it doesn't just go away.
It doesn't just go away.
It goes somewhere after that.
And where it goes is the lake.
Yeah.
What would you recommend individuals can do to help their area waterways?
Get involved in citizen science.
It's hard to look at something as large as a lake and believe your actions could make a noticeable difference. But they can. Groups like the Clean Lakes Alliance help raise awareness around positive actions individuals can take to protect the water in their community. So what can people do to help protect these shared waters? You can start at home by raking these out of the gutter or making sure to pick up your pet's waste wherever they go. You can also create a rain garden at home, at your school, or somewhere else in your community to help rainwater absorb into the ground better, helping to prevent runoff. Or become a citizen scientist like Amelia, Miranda, and Stella and help collect the data that's used to create the rules and regulations that protect our waterways. These are actions you can take to make a direct impact on your community. So next time you're out enjoying the local beach, fishing from the dock, or kayaking downstream, you can know that your actions are making a difference in the places you live and play. Any notes?
Less awkward.
here at Starkweather Creek to learn more about, never mind, sorry.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this episode was really fun for me and really special to me too, because I have a really special place in my heart for the Yahara watershed because I grew up with the Yahara River in my backyard. So this one just like means a lot to me. So I love this one.
I saw your dog.
Yeah, my dog is in this one.
Cameo.
Shout out to Toes. His name is Toes.
And his little bag of dog poop, which you should all be picking up.
Yes, pick up your dog poop.
So this one was fun.
This one was fun for me because of the sentimental value. And it was just like a really fun shoot. We got to be out on the water so much. But yeah, what about for you? What was this one like filming for you?
It's not scientific, but I got very wet. And I would like to tell everybody that you should go out and get an umbrella hat. It's a great addition to your wardrobe. You look fantastic, like I look in that episode. But it's kind of like having a headlamp instead of a flashlight is having a umbrella hat instead of an umbrella. So that's the only thing I have to say that you didn't already say.
Well, that was really funny because like I think it was really last minute. It was like the night before the shoot. I was like, hey, Ami, like any chance you have an umbrella hat that you can bring for the shoot tomorrow?
Of course I do. I bought it for my brother and then I stole it back, but I think now it is famous, so it's all very good.
Now it's famous.
Question for you. We worked with a lot of youth in that one. Sometimes it's hard to find kids who are engaged in whatever topic the episode is about. And we want to include youth voices in every episode. But this one, there were like a lot of kids doing really cool things. And I want to ask you how this episode or all of the series, Field Notes on Climate, has maybe changed your idea about who can contribute to climate research.
Yeah, like you said, like in this episode and in a lot of our episodes, we focus on citizen scientists who are just members of the community who can get involved in helping scientists with their research by collecting data in different ways. So like we talked with water quality monitors, with like the lake forecast. We've worked with the Bumblebee Brigade to do bumblebee research. Teaser, but on season 2, we're gonna kind of work on some like frog and toad surveys and like analyzing croaks and frog songs, I don't know.
It turns out there's a ton of data in the stuff that we hear all the time.
Yeah, and it's really cool. You can get involved in this stuff at whatever age. You're never too young or too old to get involved in citizen science, and it's really cool to get involved in like the research that's happening in your community, but also to like get more connected to the environment that you're living in and like see what's going on in your own neighborhood that maybe you don't notice on a day-to-day.
Yeah, I think that working on the show for me opened my eyes to a lot of things that I see every day or I already even like do a little bit or thought that I knew about, but actually there's so much more there if you just start asking questions, which is great. Great. And speaking of questions, I have a question from Cameron, which is, what is the best way to educate children about climate science in an era where kids may have a lot of access to technology and AI?
Ooh, that is such a good question, Cameron. Yeah, I think for educating anybody on climate science, I think it's a good idea to get out into nature and do hands-on activities. That's my personal preference. I think that's the best way to do it. I mean, we spend so much time nowadays with technology and hiding behind screens. And technology is great as a tool, but I don't think we should ever use technology to replace our critical thinking. So getting people out there and like actively doing the research and the testing themselves is such a good way to get people interested and more engaged in it.
Yeah, I would add to that playing is very much like the precursor to critical thinking, I think. And so encouraging people to just go outside. Obviously, like parents and teachers and educators and all kinds of people have opinions and ideas, so I'm not gonna have like a new one, but I feel like this question is kind of two questions in one, and one is, in a screen-based world, how do we get kids interested in climate science or people interested in climate science? And then another is, okay, and then how do we use technology to teach climate science? And like Kylie said, I think we should go outside. But also like technology, right, is a great tool, and I've learned so much from scientists who are like inventing new ways of using existing technology or adapting technology to better do their research. And so on a very basic level, I think that playing and exploring critical thinking and logic and just asking questions is a great place to start for all the tools you need down the road to be a person in the world that's full of technology, and to ask yourself, where did this come from and what is important about this and why, how does this affect me even if it seems like it doesn't? And I think in the show we're trying to ask these questions or connect these very wide ideas or very global climate ideas to our actual lives and like real people in our community. That is my long-winded answer.
No, I think it's great. And it's like you said, it's all about asking questions, because questions lead to discussion, and discussion leads to action and finding solutions. So I think that's really important.
And I don't think you should feel like you have to have pressure to have the answer. That's another thing. I am not a climate expert, but I love asking the questions. And if you're an educator or an adult in a child's life and they have questions, you don't have to have the right answer. Just starting the question is the beginning of the learning. And, you know, you don't have to be the expert. There are other experts out there. And science is a thing where it's changing all the time anyway, right?
Yeah. So many of our experts that we've talked to don't have a lot of answers to the questions that we ask because they're still researching it.
Yeah.
So it's like we might not have an exact answer yet, but there's like ideas and theories, and like you can follow those to find solutions.
And be part of the solutions, which is the coolest part, I think.
Yeah. Well, today we are coming to you from the PBS Wisconsin studio, where we're having a nice little picnic. But most of Field Notes on Climate doesn't happen on set. It happens out in the field. So every episode takes us across the state, where we get to talk to change makers about the knowledge, the actions, the research, the ideas that they are finding to
bringing to the world.
Bringing to the world, and finding these solutions in their communities.
So let's get back out in the field and see another episode, this time thinking about how what we wear impacts the environment and learning more about positive, more sustainable practices. Let's check it out. It's easy to get caught up in the latest fashion trends, but the choices we make about the clothes we buy, how well we care for them, and when we choose to throw them away have a big impact on the environment. In fact, the fashion industry is a major contributor to climate change and plastic pollution all around the world. So how can we prevent our clothes from ending up as waste in the environment? Let's meet up with a textile expert to learn more about where our clothes come from, where they end up when we're done with them, and what happens in between. Can you tell me first, what is a textile?
Textile is everywhere. It's made of fibers, natural, and in past 70 years, 80 years, also synthetic.
Okay, but where do those fibers actually come from?
Natural fibers grow, such as cotton.
Okay.
Synthetic fibers come from the oil. So then become which one of these two class of fibers, natural versus synthetic, are less harmful to the environment. In order to grow natural fibers, you have to use lots of equipment, lots of land, lots of energy, lots of water. It's easier to create synthetic material versus the natural material.
Does it take less resources?
Less resources, but they have other issue that you have to dig the oil, and then the gases that they are coming, some of them are methane gases, that is, this goes to the environment, and greenhouse gases. We have limited resources, so we have to be careful how we are using it, yeah?
Okay, so you save resources in different areas.
Yes, so it's a complex issue.
And then what happens to them when we're done using them?
So all natural fibers are biodegradable. In the environment, they become a part of soil, and insects and plants can use them.
Okay.
But the plastics, no.
Okay, so what do they become?
They become a smaller molecule.
And smaller and smaller
and smaller. And creates microplastics.
Oh my gosh. So it didn't actually disappear. It just broke down so you can't see it.
But if they are converting to microplastic, they are creating more problem.
Much more problem.
So we have to reduce our consumption. Fast fashion is destroying the environment. Our closets are bursting from clothes, and every season the fashion is changing, but we can create fashion that lasts longer. You use it more, therefore you extend its life.
So people should maybe buy less, think more consciously about why they're buying something.
Yes.
Think about how they might have to take care of it, and think about where it goes when they're done with it.
Exactly.
Consumerism is the belief that buying more is desirable. Consumerism leads to overconsumption, and this is driving the fast fashion industry and accelerating climate change. Quick trends lead to short lifespans of products and an abundance of textile waste. But extending the life cycle of our clothing is a great way to practice mindful consumerism with our fashion choices. Let's take a look at how this high school student is learning to mend and create her own clothes.
So this semester, I chose to take the Fabric of History and Justice, which is a class all about textiles and how they tie into activism. Sustainable fashion can mean thrifting, making your own clothes, or just repairing things, which is great for making clothes last longer. Instead of throwing something away, I actually made the outfit that I'm wearing right now. I think it's a pretty underrated life skill. It's really empowering. By just learning to do something as simple as sew a patch or button, you could save your favorite sweatshirt, save money, and help save the planet.
Learning to sew a button back on a shirt is an excellent way of practicing sustainable fashion in your own life. Taking care of the clothes that we already have can prevent the need for buying replacements and reduce our overall consumption. However, buying new clothing is inevitable, but when you do, consider these 3 things. Is this something you need or want? How often will you wear this? And what is its environmental impact? While there isn't a clear best path, making small steps in the right direction can make a big difference. And it starts with choosing what sustainable fashion means to you. Is it your goal to minimize carbon emissions from transportation by shopping locally? Are you hoping to increase the longevity of your clothing by focusing on slow fashion over fast fashion? Or do you care about reducing microplastic pollution by prioritizing natural fibers over synthetics? There are lots of ways to make your fashion choices more sustainable, and they all start with awareness and making mindful decisions. I met up with Leslie to learn more about her journey in sustainable fashion and what she chooses to focus her efforts on. So what is the Midwest Linen Revival Project?
Yeah, so it is education and outreach and advocacy and research and development around the flax plant, and specifically flax for fiber. The stem of the plant has fiber inside of it, and that can be used to make the textile linen.
Oh, okay.
It's not a new idea, it's just a fabulous old idea that's fallen a little bit by the wayside while we're using a lot of other things for textiles, including synthetic, to the point they're starting to really be detrimental to the environment.
Yeah.
All along its whole process of wearing, the synthetic fibers are shedding a little bit in microplastics in our water. 30% of them are actually directly attributed to our textiles. And so it's washing our clothes. I know, right? And so when we start thinking about that entire life cycle assessment, so you're really thinking about this product from its manufacture or its growth to its use to its end game.
Synthetic textiles are made from plastic. And these items aren't just a problem when you throw them away. They're contributing to microplastic pollution even while sitting in your closet. Lint, loose strings, the fine particles you see when shaking out your bathroom towel, those all contain microplastics that are polluting the air in your home, the water from your washer, and the food you eat. So what can we do to reduce the amount of microplastics in our clothing and our homes? Natural fibers are a great alternative that don't contribute to plastic pollution and are compostable once a textile has exhausted its use. What are things that the general public could do to be more sustainable in their fashion choices?
It's one of the most sustainable fashion choices that we can make is to buy less. It's not about me telling anybody to go home and like get rid of all your entire wardrobe, because that just means more consumption. And it just means making intentional choices going forward, doing the best that we can with what's available to us. But each one of us, when we're making our choices, we're expressing who we are. And especially as you're growing up, that is the work of youth, is to figure out who you are. And then who you are can be expressed through what you're wearing.
Yeah, wow, I never thought about it that way. The clothes we wear are often a reflection of our personalities and our values. They can be used as a form of expression and activism, both in what they say and where they came from. When we look at the life cycle of a garment, it's hard to find something that's truly sustainable from start to finish, but we can make certain decisions that increase the sustainability of our clothes. Buy clothes that will last a long time and that you'll use often, rather than focusing on short-term trends that lead to an abundance of textile waste. Learn how to repair your clothes so you can extend their usability, or learn how to sew so you can turn them into something new. If you're looking for a sustainable way to refresh your closet, host a clothing swap with your friends or at your school. Or if you're ready to say goodbye to some of the clothes you no longer wear, consider donating them to shelters or secondhand clothing stores so someone else can use them. All of these actions help make your clothing choices more sustainable. And it's not necessarily about the clothes you choose to wear, but also about the ones you choose to leave on the rack.
So, what is the answer?
Yeah, what is the answer?
I was asking you. I thought that you were
You said I could ask you anything. We learn a lot on every single episode, making it all the interviews. And you don't get to see like all of the interview. It takes like an hour to interview somebody, and Majid had so much cool stuff to say that didn't make it to the final cut because we have time limits. But speaking of things that we learn, we have a question from Jen, which is, did either of you learn something new or surprising while filming? And we did.
Yes, okay. Good question, Jen. I'm really embarrassed about this one because part of me feels like I should have known this because I have a degree in environmental studies, but I did not realize that like polyester is made from plastic, and like a lot of synthetic fibers are made from plastic. And that's just like not something that I ever like made the connection in my mind that the poly in polyester was the same as like poly is like synthetic.
I didn't know the word connection either, so.
Yeah, so it kind of like went over my head, and like when we were talking to Majid and he was talking about that, I had this like aha moment, and I was like, oh my goodness, like clothing is connected to like fossil fuels and climate change. Because I was like, when I was trying to make this episode, I was like, how do I make this connection just besides pollution? I'm like, it's like fully connected, and I like did not realize that.
But that's the
like,
point.
Yeah, and it's like that is the point, and I'm like, I'm sharing this, and I'm embarrassed to share it, but I'm happy I'm sharing it because I think it's important to know that you can't know everything, and even people who have degrees in these things are learning new things. And it's okay to not know everything, and it's okay to like learn on the go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's just like good to know that like it's okay to not know everything.
You can't know everything. If you did, you'd be an insufferable know-it-all, probably.
Yeah, and then you're just like, oh, right, yeah.
No,
okay.
It's way more fun to ask questions. But fashion isn't always like a climate change topic that we talk about. So I love about Field Notes on Climate that we have these episodes with very different topics and focus areas and sectors and industries, things that seem obvious, like the water quality episode, but also this, like, okay, fashion. But it really affects us every day. And something I learned was, I had never thought about this either, which I guess I am a little embarrassed. We talk about microplastics, and I always thought that microplastics in the water, like, I don't know, came from washing dishes. But to learn that they actually mostly come from washing fibers, which makes so much sense, but I had never thought about that. And also, you know, I thought something that I think about a lot in my life, I like to think that I'm really cool and sustainable, and I like to wear natural fibers, cotton and stuff, and I thought that that was just overall better for the environment. And it can be good for the environment, but after talking to Majida, I understand more like that that's just one little slice in this big life cycle of a garment and all the things that happen before and after that lead to how sustainable it is when I have it, which I never thought about before. So now I feel a lot more chill about wearing polyester.
Yeah, well, because it is really all about, there's so many different ways to make your clothing choices more sustainable, and there's not one right answer. It really kind of depends on like Majid says, like your end use, like what your end goal is. So it's like, for me, I really want to limit my microplastic pollution. So I do focus on like natural fibers and buying less and repairing the stuff that I do have. So that has been something that I've been doing, is just trying to like re-sew on the buttons, or like I ripped my pants the other day and now I have to figure out how to sew those back together.
You can do it. I believe in you.
It's a learning process.
Question though, like, so how has sustainability impacted you when you're making choices about thinking about what to wear?
Yeah, well, I think like what we talked about with Leslie is like just being very aware of like what you're buying and why you're buying it. So really thinking hard and like thinking long about like why you are choosing to buy a certain garment. Is it because you need it, or just because you have this like instinctual like, oh, I really want it in this moment, and it's kind of like a reflex more than like a planned purchase. So I think I've been spending a lot more time like planning my purchases. Like if I'm going to buy something, it's like, do I need it or do I just want it? And if I do need it, can I make it a more sustainable purchase by buying something that's like 100% cotton or 100% linen? Because that's what I want to do, is like microplastic mitigation. But like Majid said, like all fibers have a purpose, and it's like, it's not necessarily bad to buy a polyester shirt. You probably want like a polyester shirt if you're gonna go running. It dries faster. So everything has a purpose and it has a use. Just make sure that you are taking care of your clothes so they last a really long time. And
be proud of the holes and patches on your pants.
Yeah, you can have a lot of fun with patches. I love patches.
That's a whole other project. We have a question from Helen, which is, what suggestions are there to help make the changes we undertake a lifelong habit? Helen, this is one that I struggle with, but I think that we all do, and that's, let's share ideas.
Yeah, so I think for me, like you said, this one is one that I struggle with, because you feel like you have to be perfect. Sometimes I feel like you have to be perfect at something before you actually start doing it, but that just like delays you from actually making a difference. Like if you feel like you have to be perfect before you do something, it just is putting it off.
So just start?
So just start and learn along the way and make it fun, like have fun with it. Don't make it feel like a burden or a chore. See if you can make it like a game or like a little challenge for yourself. It's like, how many days in a row can you go without buying a water bottle and like using like your reusable one or
gamify.
Things like that? Yeah, gamify.
I would add to make it as easy as possible, which sounds kind of lame maybe, but I think that makes the biggest difference. If it's easier to make the choice that's more sustainable, then you are way more likely to do it. And I speak from experience. Make it easy and maybe do it with your friends. And I don't mean like a big party, because that's hard to organize. But even just if you tell your friends, hey, I'm gonna start composting this year, and then you have like accountability, that might turn into more of a lifelong habit. But you know, the world is changing a little bit. Even from when I was a kid 20 years ago, which is not that long ago, there are more sustainable choices out in the world. There's so much less styrofoam. There's so much more compostable, single-use plasticware. And I think that comes from a lot of the time people saying that's what we want. Like going out and saying, hey, I don't like that this restaurant uses styrofoam, and telling them that. And then, you know, if you don't say it, maybe they won't change, but if you say it, maybe they will. And so I think, you know, even talking about it and making it part of the world is what makes change, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember too that you don't have to do everything. You just have to just do like one thing and do it well.
Yes.
And that's all you have to do.
No, you have to fix your water quality and your clothing. You have to get new clothes.
No.
No. We like to make it easy and chill, and part of everyday life in a
not doom and gloom sort of way. So anyway, that's a wrap on this premiere.
Yeah, but it's definitely not a wrap on Field Notes on Climate. So if you're interested in watching more episodes, go ahead and check out pbswisconsin.org for more episodes and let us know what you think. Maybe you're curious about more climate change solutions, or maybe you're already doing things in your own community. We want to hear from you.
Yes, please. So we'll see you out in the field.
Thanks for celebrating.